Hello everybody, my name is Blue and welcome back to Tiny Island Resort. Today I think it's quite an exciting one because we are going to Iceland. Iceland is an island in Europe, as again, just like the previous episode, but this island will include the Arctic fox, which is quite a fan favourite, or at least I'm a big fan of the Arctic fox, but also interestingly enough, the grey seal, because there are grey seals in Iceland, and to make it more interesting, the grey seals will be able to swim from Iceland all the way to Scotland, the previous area that we built in this zoo. So it will be one of the few animals that can actually go to two different islands, to Great Britain and to Iceland. So that's kind of the thing I was teasing last episode for that area up north that was empty. That will be kept for the grey seals. Now, Iceland has to be one of my favourite islands, full stop, I guess. It is a European island, and although it is closer to Greenland, which is a North American island, it's actually closer to the mainland of Europe as it is to the mainland of North America. So, therefore, it is actually a European island. And it is a Nordic island, so I'm sure many of you knew that this is a Nordic island. It has the Nordic cross, as you can see that I'm building right now. And the Nordic cross was actually quite a simple flag to do. It's just a cross with another cross inside. It's really enjoyable. I wish all flags were this easy, because I can tell you, Papua New Guinea, for example, and a lot of others are really, really difficult to do. So yeah, I'm really grateful that at least Iceland has something easy. When it comes to Iceland, I think a lot of you do think of the volcanoes, of course. So we will be having volcanoes on this island, multiple even, because Iceland does have a lot of volcanoes. We will be having two volcanoes. I think that's what will fit on this relatively small miniature scale of Iceland. But also, I think a lot of the nature is quite famous for Iceland because it's mostly a tundra, but it's very pretty, it's very green, it's very nice, rolling hills and stuff like that. Also mountains, of course, snowy mountains. There's actually permafrost on Iceland, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. All the research that I did, however, at least, said that there's permafrost on some regions in Iceland, which I've tried to include as well. And it's a very volcanic. Oh, I said that, but it's a very, very volcanic island. There's a lot of volcanic activity. Most of the, not most, I don't know, but a lot of the volcanoes on Iceland are actually active, like right now, like they're all active. So it's yeah, it's because the island is right in the middle of some continental plates. That's a very common thing when it comes to islands, because a lot of islands are formed because of tectonic movement and activity. And Iceland is a good example of this, because Iceland is just one big, I guess, result of tectonic activity, a lot of volcanism basically. And I tried to encapsulate the Nordic sort of architecture with this sort of triangular house. When I googled Icelandic architecture, a lot of the images, and I do mean a lot of them, have basically what you would think of as a typical Nordic building, but completely covered in grass basically on top. So that's what I've done. I tried to do something, I used some imagery, and I actually used some of the dry grass as well, because it gives the effect that it's kind of like dying on the edges, which is quite common, and then I also plotted some in between. Actually, you wouldn't think that arid grass would work in a very Nordic or like very tundra setting, but dead grass is dead grass, you know, and grass also dies when it's too cold or stuff like that. So it does actually look really, really good. It works. So yeah, I guess that's a little tip. So yeah, I'm gonna use a lot of dead grass throughout the whole island. I've said in the very first episode of Tiny Island Resort that I was not going to do microclimates within the islands, because the scale of which I've built these islands are basically too small to include all the different micro environments that the island has. even though I said that, I kind of tried to do that with this one, and it did sort of fail, I must admit. This video and this build will show why, basically, including all these small microclimates throughout the island does not really work. I ended up having most of the island one single environment, but the mountainous regions, or at least the miniature mountainous regions, are supposed to represent certain climates within the island. So it's going to be more of a snowy mountains, volcanic mountains, stuff like that. But the way I fixed it, basically, which you will see soon, because the problem was basically having a snowy mountain and the rest bland felt a bit out of place, especially in such a small scale. It would work if it was a bigger scale, but because it's such a small scale, it felt a bit wrong to have the snow just stop, even though it's kind of on the same elevation, if you know what I mean. So how I kind of solved this is I just imagined the island being at like end of winter, early spring, although I don't know how the snowfall is in Iceland. I assume there's a lot of snow, a big portion of the year, but I'm just imagining it's like the end of like the snowy period, and the snow is slowly melting, and there's still like just the remaining like snow is still there, you know. So there is snow throughout the whole island, but just it's melting basically. As you can see, I'm building an island. This is this, well yeah, obviously I'm building an island, but I mean, I'm building a volcano, that's what I meant. It's the second volcano in the zoo, the first one being in the North Island of New Zealand. That one, I must admit, the one in New Zealand was not the best volcano. I just quickly built it to like try out the new pieces from Oceania at the time. But now I wanted to, I guess, put a bit more effort in it, try to make more of an interesting design, and I think I succeeded. I think the snow really helps of giving it really that Nordic feeling. The volcanic rocks do help a lot, because when you look, if you Google imagery of Icelandic like volcanic mountains, they're very black, and obviously it's a mountain, it's an active volcano, so there's a lot of volcanic rock there. So yeah, I've used a lot of volcanic rock in this build for all the volcanoes, and then tundra rocks for all the remainders. And because Iceland is mostly nature, more nature than like famous architecture, I'd say, I'm focused more on famous landmarks, more nature-wise, instead of like man-made. Like I said, I built that one building to hide the staff area, but for the rest of the island it's just nature, all natural features, and I use a lot of actual landmarks from Iceland as inspiration. This waterfall sort of feature is literally, if you just Google Iceland, the very first image that pops up. I might just show it on screen right now if I'm not too lazy. The very first image you see is not a volcano, like a waterfall sort of feature with a cool mountain in the background. I'm sure if you're from Iceland, and if you are from Iceland, then welcome to my channel. You're probably the only Icelandic person watching, but if you are from Iceland, you probably know what it's called, and you probably know this landmark. But it's literally the first thing you get when you Google it. So yeah, so I built those two things sort of in my own sort of like freedom, because I didn't recreate it, I just inspired from it basically. But basically the mountain had like, it was mostly grass. It was just a grass mountain with different stone layers in between, which I sort of tried to reenact with this, kind of. I did my best. I think it looks alright. But yeah, that's what I tried to do there. So there's a lot of different stuff going on, and that's when I go back to what I said earlier, that I try to do a lot of different microclimates and different features on a small island, and it feels very clustered. It feels like there's a lot of stuff going on a very small area. I think the snow at the end, the snow does tie it all together, which makes it a bit more nicer looking, not as random, you know. The snow really ties the whole island together, I think, at least. But right now it feels very chaotic. That's what I'm doing now, basically. I'm adding the snow pieces. I also end up using snow terrain to paint the terrain as well. But yeah, I'm using snow pieces, showing that there's still snow there, and it works really well. But I haven't really talked about the animal itself, because, as I said, the Arctic fox, you might think, isn't the Arctic fox from North America, because it's from the North America pack, and you're totally correct. But they also live on Iceland. I think it's the only place in Europe where they live. So that's quite cool. Maybe Norway, but I doubt it. I think Iceland is the only European country where they have native Arctic foxes. So I could not pass adding the Arctic fox to this zoo on, well, one of the more famous European islands, Iceland. And then I also took the opportunity to add the grey seal. The grey seal, a lot of you might think it's a bit of a basic animal to think, maybe not the most iconic island animal, you know, but there's a lot of water in this zoo, and I might as well utilize the water, and I think having a grey seal is quite a good choice since it can swim through the water, obviously, but it also lives on multiple islands because they live in Iceland, they live in Great Britain, they live on a lot of coastlines in North America, in Europe, so there's a lot of potential for the grey seal. So I can maybe even put grey seals somewhere else eventually if opportunity strikes. But for now, it's just between Great Britain and Iceland, and I think it works really well. And then the Arctic foxes. Actually, the Arctic foxes are one of my favorite animals in the entire game. Maybe not in real life, because there's a lot of cool animals in real life. The thing is that the Arctic fox is so cute. And what I really like about the Arctic fox is that it shows a very interesting thing when it comes to evolution, where the ears of the Arctic fox are really small. If you compare that to a close relative, the fennec fox, they have massive ears, and that just shows how important temperature is when it comes to like selection and environmental pressures, because obviously ears are a good place to lose heat, and which is very ideal if you live in a hot climate like the Sahara Desert, like the fennec fox. But if you live in a very cold climate like the Arctic fox, then you want to keep as much heat as you can, because you don't want to die of hypothermia. So what natural selection does is it selects the individuals with the shortest ears. They will have the biggest chance of surviving, because obviously they won't die of hypothermia, and they have the biggest chance of continuing their small ear genes. And then you basically get an entire population of foxes with tiny ears, and it's the cutest thing ever. Anyway, we are nearing the end of the build. I'll see you soon during the walkthrough. Alright, hello everyone, welcome to the aerial tour this time, because there's no path, and I could take the boat, but I think it's just easier if you do an aerial tour. So I can show you basically what we've done. I have a small issue with the seals. They keep on getting boxed, and I might have to adjust the gate here so they will get unboxed automatically, because that's a bit of an issue. But I do think this looks quite cool, I think, because I tried to do the grass as good as possible, making it feel like it's some tundra kind of environment in Iceland, because it's like sort of end of winter, I guess is the idea. So the snow is melting, and yeah, these are the landmarks, the volcanoes, the Iceland flag, of course. And then on this side we have another one just got boxed. But yeah, on this side we have the seals, the grey seals, which can also swim over to Scotland. So that's what this area was about. Yeah, very cool. So there's not much more that I can show really. I hope you enjoyed the speed build and the little tour at the end of this video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.